Alright you lot, don't forget to give us a follow on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and while you're at it, give us a 5-star rating. Trust me, it really does help us out. But talking to drivers, because we have got to get onto this, Mr. Logan Sargent.
Oh yeah, big news there. I mean, it was kind of a bit of a bombshell. Joska Peter, kind of put into that.
He wasn't even meant to be in that interview.
He was just chilling, yeah, and obviously he revealed it straight away. Of his own accord as well. Wasn't even asked too much, I don't think.
No, he wanted to say it,
I quite like what he's done. That, he said that Logan Sargent will be their 2023 driver if he secures the super license points. I actually really like that because he's put pressure on Logan. And I quite like that. Formula 2, the weird thing is, Felipe Drugovich was like, fighting for a title this year, but that final race has a Formula 1 drive on the line for Logan Sargent, and so he needs to deliver the points in terms of the super license, but also, on the track as well. And I really like the way they've gone about it, because if he doesn't get the super license points, there will still be options for Williams. There will always be options for a Formula 1 drive.
Ricardo in the seat.
Exactly. But I don't know if Ricardo would be up for that, but there'll always be options. But I like putting that pressure on a young driver. You got to deliver. Do you want a Formula 1 drive? It's in your it's in the palm of your hands, and deliver, and you get it.
Have you seen much of him, JB? Like, what do you make of what you've seen of Logan?
He's rapid, and the key thing, I think I said it before, he's American. Like, that's huge for the sport to get an American in there. When we've got 3 American Grand Prix next year, I think it's good to have him involved. As long as he can do a better job than Latifi in the car, because it looks to me like the Williams is a bad car. It looks horrible to drive. Doesn't matter who's driving it. It looks like it's tough, but Albon's consistently getting much closer to points than Latifi is, and Nick de Vries showed it as well at Monza. So if he can come in and do anything close to what Nick did in that car and just give it a bit more push, that's more sponsors for Williams.
Yeah.
That's an opportunity for him to really cement himself in a career, because he's got 2 good drivers in the car. I think he's a good opportunity for him.
Yeah, because Sargent, if you look at his junior career, he went to the line with Piastri and Porsche in Formula 3, was leading the championship before that last race in Mugello where it all went wrong. Didn't have the budget, so had a tough season in F3s. I think he was with Charouz, and he still managed to get on the podium, and they're not like the best team.
Which is unreal, to get a podium in a Charouz is amazing.
And then, he's been the best rookie so far this year. So I think that, obviously, I just hope it goes well, because I've got a lot of love for Williams. I've got a lot of love for Sargent as well. I've been following, he's been my driver this year for sure. To see him and Albon together is like beautiful. I'm super happy with that.
And I don't think, if he does make it to Formula 1, I don't think he needs to beat Albon. Like, the team they've been very impressed by Alex in terms of building the team around him. They just need someone a little bit closer, because
just to do the job, bro. Just to take the car and actually just put it close to the point.
And also, Latifi, just on pure pace, nothing against Nicholas Latifi, but he's not Formula 1 quality, not just in terms of the results that he got, but his speed. I mean, what was it, half a second to 6 tenths away? That is not good enough. That's across an entire season. And we saw it right away. It wasn't as if this gap was building across the season, all the way from Bahrain, from Saudi Arabia, even Australia, when Alex scored his first point for Williams. We saw it straight away that Latifi was just nowhere near. And this is someone that's been at the team for 2 years, so I don't think that Logan Sargent even needs to beat Albon, because I think they could build the team around Alex.
It was inevitable, but also like you say, the requirements for Williams are different, and they need solid drivers. And I think Haas are in the same situation, right? Because that was a bad race for Mick Schumacher. I don't know if there was some strategy madness or whatever, but with Magnussen getting in the points, Schumacher nowhere near, P15 in the end. What do you make of that kind of Haas situation? Because I feel like their requirements are very similar to what Williams want, but I guess Williams have got Sargent, he's part of their driver academy, the future, whereas Haas, it feels like they might go for Hülkenberg.
Why was their car so good at the start of the season and so bad now? I have no idea. But also
Alfa Romeo, same as well.
Same thing. But also, on the driver situation, I think that they need an experienced driver in the car. I get that. If they're going to develop it, they need someone who's experienced, who's going to put the time and the effort in. So probably a K-Mag or a Hülkenberg or whatever basically needs to be in that car. The second driver for me has to be someone young, someone up and coming, to give him a chance in the sport. We don't need Hülkenberg back in the sport. And by the way, I rate Nico Hülkenberg, and he's a very fast driver. And didn't he nearly go to McLaren? No, he went to Mercedes or whatever in the early days as well.
He did,
I rate him highly. But stop bringing old breaders back into the sport.
How's the last one doing? The last one that came through, Fernando Alonso, how's he doing now?
Fernando Alonso is a 2-time world champion.
Oh, there we go.
Nico Hülkenberg is not a 2-time world champion.
I think. Do you know what the problem? It is a fact. It is a fact. I think when it comes to the Mick Schumacher situation, and I said this actually on the stream, I almost think it's nothing to do with pure performance. Mick has got closer to K-Mag. Like in qualifying, he's got closer. In the races, okay, again, we don't know what happened in that race. It was, he should have been in the points.
It didn't look good. But
exactly. Yeah. But on pure performance, I think he's done enough to warrant a seat. I think that there is something behind the scenes. There was definitely a breakdown in the relationship at the beginning of the year because Mick was just, again, a cost gap error. And he was absolutely piling these cars into the barrier. And I remember saying he wasn't breaking front wings. This guy was snapping chassis in half, like in Monaco, in Saudi Arabia. And then I think
they can't afford that.
There was some media reports that Gunther Steiner basically just had it out with him in Baku or something. It was either Baku or Austria, like basically in front of the media. And that was a very kind of enough of the soft approach.
With it,
enough of the soft approach. It's time to really kind of give him the kick up the backside. And if that doesn't, wake him up, then I don't know what will. But it seemed like it did for a while. But I don't think Mick, relationship-wise, reacted well to that kind of encouragement.
This is the problem, right? So Haas, again, they have different requirements. Like if you've got a rookie who's like, look, Verstappen, when he came in, right, Crash Stappen, that was that's what people coined him, right? Because he was rapid, but he had a lot of shunts. And there was enough talent there for Red Bull to be
a little bit.
patient. Yeah, for sure. And there was enough talent there for Red Bull to be patient. With Mick Schumacher, he's shown a good amount, but I think to offset those costs, I guess what I would say to your point, JB, is like, for a team like Haas, why should they go for a junior? Because if they develop a good junior, they're just going to piss off anyway. True. Like Leclerc left Alfa Romeo, Russell left Williams. Like you're developing a driver for someone else. I think for a team like Haas, they just need stability, and I think that's what Nico Hülkenberg gives because he's quick, but also he doesn't crash.
And just for the 1 year, I don't think Haas is this long-term project. We're looking for a guy for the next 3 years. Just get through 1 year. A bit of stability. And then we can reassess our options in 2024. But it's a weird one between Hülkenberg and Schumacher. I think it's all about, even the little joke thing that Mick did in this weekend where he was wearing like the Gunther t-shirt. I think a small part of that is trying to almost like repair the relationship just a little bit.
Please.
Exactly. I genuinely think it is because, he's seeing his chances slip away. Like maybe Williams is an option if Logan doesn't get the points, but I do still want to see Mick. It's, Mick in Formula One, but I think the question for Haas is the upside of Mick and the further development of him getting quicker and better next year, is that gonna be better than what Hülkenberg can bring to the table?
Are we giving Mick too much credit because of his surname as well?
I mean, we're absolutely some people say
I think it goes two ways.
Yeah. As in, it's like, there's pressure on the one hand, as in like pressure on him because of the surname, but then also like, do we also go like, but it'd be nice to have a Schumacher in the sport still, and like. He like when I think about the young drivers who come through the last few years, the Lando Norrises, the Carlos Sainzes even for a bit longer, the Charles Leclercs, the Max Verstappens, etc. Like there's been something about them from kind of the get-go where you're like, this guy's sick. George Russell in a Williams, we were like, this guy. Remember, George Russell at Mugello 2020. When he came through that corner, left-hander in quali, and went off the track onto the dirt, came round and
still out-qualified
Latifi. We were like, this man is on smoke with it. And then you think of Mick Schumacher. I can't think of a performance like that where I'm like, actually, this guy is going to be the future of F1.
Yeah, I think the problem is, right, and Russell kind of had this to an extent as well. And that's why even him getting the Mercedes seat, there was still some question marks because his teammates had been a Kubica, who obviously, since his injury wasn't the same driver that he was before, and Latifi, and we all know that Latifi's just not at the level. And then obviously with Schumacher, he had Mazepin as a teammate in first year in a Haas miles back. It was very difficult to get a gauge of how good Mick was, but we know how good K-Mag is. Like he's raced at multiple different teams.
We know what level he is. He was the perfect comparison for Mick.
And I think Mick's done enough on pace, but I just think the shunts for Haas, I get why there's these question marks. I really do.
And it's not just the beginning of the season. Like, again, Suzuka, end of free practice. I know it was raining. I know it was wet conditions, cold tyres. The session was actually over. I think it was FP2 maybe. Even that shunt.
He did aquaplane, which I'm just like, how much can you kind of maybe...
But the thing is, that's still costing Haas. And Mick is definitely. I mean, I haven't seen like the figures, but I've seen like some figures on Twitter. So take it with a bucket of salt. But your eyes tell you he's the most expensive driver in terms of the crash damage. And a team like Haas, they're not a Ferrari. They don't have that. They're not even operating at the budget cap. Let's just remember that, by the way. I think only Ferrari, Mercedes, and Red Bull are actually operating at that 145 or 135 million budget cap. So
or 146.8 million if maybe you're Red